plus Atieno, but that is in the second hour. For this first hour, I'm joined by Almeida Ayabe, who is a board director of Youth Enterprise Fund. Karibu sana Bwana Ayabe.
Thank you, Bwana Ben Njue.
Yeah. Maybe you can start with a brief introduction and especially to shed more light on what exactly the Youth Enterprise Fund and where we are at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. To begin with, my name is Almeida Ayabe. I come from Baringo. Currently, I'm serving as a board member at Youth Enterprise and Development Fund, a position I've served now for 1 year and 6 months. And Youth Fund was established in the year 2006 and later on transformed to a state corporation in the year 2007. And it was formed or established to address challenges of youth unemployment, the rampant youth unemployment in the country, by providing loans or actually affordable credit services to our youth who are in businesses, those who are interested in starting businesses, and of course those who are also doing tendering or procurement in our government, because we also have a product that supports them when one wins a contract. So basically, youth is operating under the Ministry of Youth Affairs, creative economy, and sports. Yes.
And maybe you can tell us the setup and the structure of the organization and also the age bracket we are looking at. I know people like me are already disqualified because of the age.
Okay. At Youth Fund, of course, we have board level, where we have a structure set up for board members, being headed by the chair and board directors. We have the CEO. And down there we have management. We have actually a very clear structure. We have a setup to grassroots level, where we have officers to our constituency levels to serve this youth in the grassroots level. Yes.
The age bracket?
The age bracket, we are targeting youth of 35 years and below, to up to 18.
And for the benefit of the youth who are watching, what are some of the products that you have and what are some of the requirements?
Okay. Basically, because I said we were formed actually to address the issue of unemployment, we are there to encourage our youth to turn out from job seekers to job creators. We are doing so in a manner that we encourage. That is why we have a lot of products, as you have asked me. We have group loans. In group loans, we target the group of around 5 members. We have a minimum of 5 members. And inside in the same group, an individual can also borrow in that umbrella of the group,
As an individual now?
As an individual. Now, we said, assuming we have 5 members, 1 member can borrow but use other group members as the guarantors. That is in the perspective of group. We also have individual loans. Individual loans targets those who want to expand their businesses. We have those who want to expand their businesses. So that is on individual level. On groups, the difference there is on groups, we give them from a minimum of 100,000 gradually. They can graduate from 100,000, 200,000, up to a maximum of 5 million. And it is not secured loans. For groups, they are not secured loans, and this loan don't have any interest. What we only do for them is we just charge them what we call management fees of around 5%.
And in one of your intended beneficiaries, you're looking or targeting youth looking for jobs abroad. Maybe you can shed light on that. Does it cover, what does it cover exactly?
Okay. As we speak, Njue, we have several departments in our fund. We have a department which only concentrates to linking our youth to jobs abroad. And we have actually managed to secure 30,000 jobs for our youth in various countries in the world. And you see, as part of exposing this youth, as part of solving this unemployment, that is one of the focus that we are focused as a youth fund, so that we take youth to abroad, to link them to jobs in abroad, as well providing them with loans, those who are within, those who want to venture into businesses, both individuals and groups. Yes.
And the loan application process, we've seen in some instances it's quite hard to navigate through the loan application process. Is it easy for anyone who wants to maybe apply for that money?
Yeah, for us it's very easy.
Some of the requirements that are required?
For us it's very easy. One requirement for a group. Let me start for a group. The group must be registered at social service with a minimum number of 5 and beyond, but we encourage youth to be in existence of 5 members because it's easy to be managed. They can also manage themselves easily. And one requirement for a group is you must have a registered group. 2, in that group, you must, in a group of 5 members, 70% must be youth in that membership. That means we can allow one person above 35, which is okay, provided they are within 75% comprises of the youth. That is 1. 2, you must have an active bank account. You must have an active bank account. That is number 2. Number 3 is you must have a proof of the business, because you must have a well-structured business plan to also give us confidence that you are sure of what you are going to do. So those are some of the requirements. You must again have a business permit. You must have a business permit. For individuals, sometimes we have individuals, and in individuals you must have a collateral, for example, because that is an individual. We don't need collateral in groups. But for businesses that run by individuals, of course we require some collateral, like a logbook, like a title deed.
Just hold on. You're talking about the youth.
Yes.
And the collateral of title deed and logbooks.
Yes.
And you're targeting somebody who is 18 years,
Yes.
19 years.
Yes.
Where can I get this?
We allow them to use even one for their parents.
Okay.
Yes. Your brother, your parent, or even a friend. Because we have many who are ready to and willing to give them those titles to enable that individual to access the loans. Yes.
And I'm looking at some of the achievements. How much have you been able to disburse? You're almost hitting 20 years since you began operations.
Yeah, actually we are around 18 years old. And we have managed to change lives for almost 2 million youth. But to be specific is 1,905,000 at the moment. And we have managed to disburse over 14 billion in the entire, since inception. We have managed to disburse 14 billion Kenyan shillings.
Talking about 14 billion, what about the repayment? Because basically there are some youths who will be able to begin a business, start up business, and then it mushrooms and then shrivels up. What happens to such kind of youth?
Of course, we face some challenges, but our repayment rate at the moment stands at 75%. We are doing well in repayment because we have control measures. You know, we give those loans to a group known by even the local leaders. Like for now, we work hand in hand with chiefs and assistant chiefs. And then once a group gets those money, our officers frequently visit and to monitor the progress of the business. Yeah.
And do you provide market support and linkages, or just to give the loan and just wait?
We do. We do. We link, we expose them to these large enterprises. You know, by doing so, we'll have exposed them to even new ways of doing this, better prices, and of course, that individual youth will gain that confidence. Yes.
And in the Ministry of Agriculture, we have extension officers who make sure that the farmer is using the right pesticides, the right crops.
Yes.
Do you have more or less like extension officers who follow up on these youth and their businesses to see exactly where they are?
Yes. At the moment, before we disperse this money, I assume a youth borrowed some money for agribusiness, because we also have a product for agribusiness. We first of all organize for a training for them, where now we follow the agricultural officers. We do a training so that when these people are going to spend this money, they are spending on a particular and on a guided procedure. Yes.
And what about capacity building?
Yeah, we do capacity building. As we speak, for your information, we have done, recently, we just completed the 30th counties. We have been visiting all the counties to do a capacity building and sensitization. Actually, we have been supporting. We have supportive partners, like we partnered with Equity Bank. They have been supporting us in doing trainings. We have actually moved almost all the counties. At the moment, we have finished that counties, and the process is ongoing. Actually, we are anticipating that at the end of this year, we'll be able to have managed to cross all over the country doing capacity building for our youth.
Youth Enterprise Fund is a countrywide facility for youths.
Yes.
Do you have offices in all the 47
Yeah, we
countries?
have officers in all our 47 counties. Yeah. Actually, we have 3 per county. 3 officers per county. Yes.
Maybe you can share some of the success stories, because I'm quite sure there are some people who have really helped themselves and their businesses because of the Youth Enterprise Fund.
Yeah, I can share some stories. For example, here in Kajiado, at Kitengela, there is a successful beneficiary. This guy actually starts from 2 million. He borrowed 2 million. He spent the 2 million well. He graduated to 3 million. And now, as we speak, he operates at 5 million. He runs a business called Easternat Limited. It is based in Kajiado. That is, to be specific, in Kitengela. There in Baringo, we have a group. They started as a small group, and now they have grown. To an extent, they are even giving loans to other groups. For them, the story is very encouraging, because they started with 100,000, they graduated to 200,000, they went to 500,000. As we speak now, they are borrowing 1 million. And they are doing well. They are doing well. What they do is they borrow and they loan to other groups. Yeah. So I am feeling like going forward from now and future, these people will be graduating even to SACCOs. Yeah. So it's a very encouraging story. That is number one. That is in Baringo.
Yes.
Actually, to be specific, in Ildama Ravine. Another one, we have a guy in Kisumu who actually does the same. He borrowed gradually. He now runs a big dental clinic in Kisumu. And he just graduated like that. And we have a lot of success stories. Last 2 months or 3 months ago, we were in Gonoin constituency. There is a young man who also benefited from our product called asset financing. Asset financing is also a product that we for supporting those youth who actually interested in the water vehicle, so that they can ease their mobility of their products or farming goods. This guy, he also is also a beneficiary. He bought loans gradually. As we speak, that guy is owning a 6 acres land for passion fruits. So last week, 3 months ago, we bought for him an Isuzu Canter to ease the transportation from the farm to the market, among many other stories. We actually have a lot of stories. And in fact, I want to ask if you can also have, going forward, invite those individuals with their success stories to encourage other Kenyans that this thing is real and the government is doing a good work. Yes.
And because majority of the youths and on this space, a lot of Gen Zs are watching, and they do fall into that 18 to 34 age bracket. And many of them are in the digital space, yes. Content creators, yes. Musicians, yes. Actors. Yes. You know, how are they supported by the Youth Enterprise Fund?
Yeah, well, we also have a product called Talanda. Talanda is a loan gives to those youth who have ventured into creativity. Those who are singers, we have artists, and we have been giving money to these people. So actually, we encourage them to come to Youth Fund because we have a product that actually will help them. Yes.
And I've seen, I can't help but notice because of the content creation, you have the V Talanta loan and you also have the Vibe. Yes. The Vibe loan. Yes. I think there's more or less like a difference here. Yes. The V Talanta targets youth in the creative performing industry, while Vibe, there's a Vibe loan which supports youth who wish to start and grow businesses in the blue economy. Maybe you can touch on that because also in the fisheries as well.
Fisheries, sea what. So that Vibe supports youth who wish to start and grow business in the blue economy. And that in blue economy we have fisheries, marine tourism, maritime transport, etc. Yes.
What about the commercial infrastructure? How are you ensuring that also those people who start up the business do not fall into the many challenges that are there in the market and fail to pay?
In commercial infrastructure, this is something we started, and we partner with the county government, for example, or actually even the national government, in a free space. Sometimes we identify a free space, we partner with the county government or the national government, we build stalls. And then these stalls, we now encourage or we invite these youth in business, doing business to occupy those stalls. Like we have one in Naivasha. Actually, it's practical. We are in Naivasha. We are in Nakuru. Actually, in Nakuru town, we also have those commercial infrastructure. And it is doing well. It's also another way that will encourage the organization to earn income. Because we also get income from those stalls. Yes.
In 2020 was a very challenging year for everyone in the world, including the youth and some of the people you've also loaned money.
Yes.
And we have also seen some banks claim that a number of people have not been able to service their loans. What happens to someone who defaults a loan?
Yeah, what happened actually, it was a very difficult time, but we relaxed. We relaxed some of the, of course, due to the condition they were facing at the moment. So we were negotiating. We were negotiating with them on their favorable way that they can continue servicing, so that we don't fix them so much. And again, as Youth Fund, we don't miss getting repayments. Those people repaying the money, because we need this money. Again, these are revolving money. So we need them back so that to help another youth. Yes.
And what is for the last 18 years, as you've said, what has been the economic impact of the Youth Enterprise Funds on Kenyan economy?
Yes. To me, I can say it has really impacted positively on our youth. Because you can imagine 1.9 million youth who have access to this loan. It is clear indication that we have managed to impact their lives. From the success stories, you have seen we have the success story. We have a lot of success stories. That is why I'm telling you, in future, you try to invite these individuals so that it encourage other youth. Yes.
What about maybe are there any plans for expansion and maybe more allocation, you know, restructuring of the youth fund? Because after 18 years, we have to have some progress.
Yeah. In that 18 years, actually we started from 1 staff by every county. We have now moved to three staff per county. Remember, in a county, we have a county that has even 5 constituencies. So going forward, we are trying to fill positions to sub-county levels so that we can have an officer directly deals with a certain constituency so that we can spread these products to the remote areas in our villages there. Yeah.
Let's look at sustainability. How does the youth fund ensure that this fund will be there for ages and ages? You've been there for 18 years, and as I can see, there are some very, very good success stories for sustainability. What are some of the plans that you guys have?
Yes.
And especially being one of the board members who is tasked with also formulating some of the policies that are followed by the Youth Enterprise Fund.
What we will do is that we have a plan that ensuring that we get a good number of repayment, because actually what makes us to be sustainable is when we disperse this money, we get equivalent percentage of repayment, because we cannot go anywhere if we don't get back this money from the youth. So we have set controls in place that every now when we disperse some money, we make sure we recover in full. You know, when we recover in full, we are able to progress, and we will make it sustainable. Yes.
And I'm quite sure you've received some of the suggestions of how you can make even the fund far much better by the success stories that you're talking about.
Yes.
Maybe you can highlight some of the things that some of the people have been recommending that can be done to improve the Youth Enterprise Fund.
So one is we realize that there are youth who are not aware about the existence of the fund, and we have made sure that this is the reason why we have started this sensitization exercise, so that we give them, so that we sensitize them about this existence of the youth fund. That is number one. Number two is we are having our page, for example. We use our page like Youth Fund, Enterprise Fund, to train, to actually invite them or actually encourage them to visit our offices in grassroots level, some in headquarters, to actually get information about what we are offering at Youth Fund. Yes.
And you must have received some recommendations or even challenges that the youth are facing, some of whom you are supporting in regards to the business that they are doing. What are some of the challenges that these groups do face and individuals? And how do you help them?
Yeah, sometimes in agribusiness, you remember, weather sometimes cannot be favorable to those who are in business. You may put money in farming, for example, and you understand some natural incidents happens, like you may not end up meeting the target. So what we encourage the youth is that they actually need to put money on areas where they are sure that they will get money to do repayments. Yes.
Some of the youth we are talking about are already in the CRB,
yes,
the Credit Reference Bureau. They have been listed. And in many institutions, it's really tough to get money when you're listed at the Credit Reference Bureau. So in your organizations, do you also include those who have been listed adversely in the Credit Reference Bureau?
So far we have not, because those who have defaulted, some of them have made commitments that we give them an extension of a certain period, and we have actually seen them paying. We have seen them paying. So at the moment, we just encourage them that even after defaulting, you can still repay back the money. And that is why we stand at a good rate of at 70% in repayments. Yeah.
Actually, my question there is, do you, if at all I'm a youth
Yes.
and I'm listed in the CRB, can I still get funding from the Youth Enterprise Fund?
No, you can't. Even in groups, one member, if out of the 5 members, for example, a group is comprised of 5 members, and 1 member is in a CRB, that one definitely will disqualify that group. Yes.
I'm looking at also, Kenya is not the first country to initiate such a program.
Yes.
Have you been able to borrow from other countries, or what exactly they are doing to make the youth environment quite robust? A case in point is South Africa and Egypt, which are doing very well in terms of how they are helping their youth. I quite believe they have a form of a youth enterprise fund in their country or something.
Yes. What we do in that case, for now, Njue, we currently depend on the government exchange in this disbursement. And we have expert and professional team. We have been doing benchmarking. We have been doing benchmarking to see how we can better also our organization. Yes.
What support have you gotten from the government, and is it sufficient? Because I'm quite sure there are a lot of people who have applied, but unfortunately because of the kitty, they cannot all of them be given money. How has the government support been?
Government support.
Are there plans to maybe increase the fund?
Yeah, government actually has been very supportive. And if you look at the Kenya Kwanza plan on the issue of better bottom-up economic transformation agenda, our president is very keen in addressing the issues of youth unemployment in our country. And by so doing, Njue, the government has been very supportive. They have been very supportive, and that is why we have enough money to support youth in business and those who want to start a business. Yes.
You mentioned in terms of sustainability, of course there are some challenges that come with that and with the evolving. I've mentioned one of the challenges was the COVID-19 pandemic, which really drained a lot of countries, and especially funds like this. What are some of the support that you were able to give some of the Youth Enterprise Fund people that you were able to give?
To sustain the business?
Yes.
So for now, it's just to relax and negotiate on the repayment terms. And perhaps maybe with a proof that really this business was affected by that reason, we may give them an extension period. Yes.
You're watching KBC News Check. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're taking a quick break, but we are discussing matters youth empowerment, and especially when it comes to the Youth Enterprise Fund, which has been in existence since the year 2006, and some success stories that we've had here. I'm joined by one of the board members. His name is Almeida Ayabe. We'll be back with this discussion after a brief moment.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture,
Movies, gossip and trends, sports,
Drama.
we bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
to keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine. Siku zinasonga sambamba na matukio yanavyojiri.
Kuyajua hayo, mbali na hamasa zilizopo kwengineko, shirika la utangazaji KBC limejitolea kuhakikisha ubora wa matangazo yasiyo na chuku.
Darubini huangazia mengi ya kusini na kaskazini, mashariki na magharibi, na kukuwasilishia kwa njia stahiki.
Ufasaha, usawa, uketo, pasipo kuegemea upande wowote.
Iwapo hutaki shaka kwa unachoarifiwa, Darubini itakidhi mahitaji yako.
Jina langu ni Nancy Onyancha.
Na mimi ni Harith Salim.
Jina langu ni Gladys Mungai.
Mimi ni Ahmed Jumabalo.
Nami ni Sarafina Robi.
KBC, angazo la Wakenya.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Back. Welcome back to KBC News Tech. We are looking at youth empowerment and more specifically through the Youth Enterprise Fund. I'm joined by one of the board members of the Youth Enterprise Fund, Almeida Ayabe. We are looking at some of the challenges. We also look at some of the disbursements, some of the loans facilities that the youth can enjoy. Remember, 18 to 34 years, you do qualify, and the loan are quite soft, as he says, but you're telling us about the interest rate, the others who do not even attract any interest. Tell us more about that. And maybe we can start from there.
Yes.
It's good to also tell them, in as much as this is a loan, there are some loans that do not attract any interest.
Yeah. For the loans who does not attract interest is basically group loans. Mm-hmm. Only group loans does not attract interest. Even Talanta loans does not attract interest. The other types of the loans now, that is individual loans, LBO financing. I think we also need to talk about LBO financing, mm-hmm. because in LBO financing, this is where we target the youth who are in HACBO, who operates on HACBO, mm-hmm. that is access to government procurement opportunities. We give them, sometimes a youth can win a contract. And you know the challenges outside there, that these people might lack the support to run that particular business. So when they come to Youth Fund, mm-hmm. we help those people. And we have assisted a lot. Mm-hmm. Provided you give an evidence, that is have an LBO, approach a friend, your brother or else your parent, to give you a security. Mm-hmm. We will support that particular person up to 70% of the total value of that contract. That is an LBO financing loan. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And maybe let me just point a few loans that I've also seen. You also have asset financing loan. You mentioned on Agri-Biz loan. We've talked about V-Talanta loan, LPO financing loan. There's also the Go Green for AGPO. Kindly explain that. I see the loan limits are from 100,000 to about 3 million shillings.
So those are groups, those are loans that supports youth entrepreneurs in green economy. That is like renewable energy, those who are in renewable energy, ecotourism, waste management, etc. Yes.
Disbursement, let's look at disbursement and the turnaround time for disbursement from the time you apply for a youth enterprise loan to the time that you're getting your money, and also the repayment structure.
Yes.
Talk something about that.
In fact, Njue, we have actually relaxed some of these conditions, as I've said, and even reduced the turnaround time by ensuring if a youth applies today for these loans, it only takes maximum 2 weeks. We disperse. Maximum 2 weeks. Initially, before, it used to take around 2 months or 1.5 sometimes. But for now, we have reduced the bureaucracy to exactly two weeks, maximum of 2 weeks. Yes. And the repayment, for a group, we give them a grace period of 3 months. You borrow the money today, you stay for 3 months, you start repaying.
3 months repayment holiday.
I mean, when you borrow today, you are given a grace period. Then you start paying. Now, for 24 months. So you are given 2 years to make your repayments. Yes.
All right, and there are other agencies and there are other funds, like the Women Enterprise Fund. There are a number of funds in the country. Maybe you can touch something on that, and especially on maybe how you work together with these agencies, because you mentioned the government initially and the support that it has.
Yes.
There must be other support that you're getting from other agencies.
From onset, I said our government is actually committed to ensure that they support this youth and, of course, address the issue of unemployment. And that is why we have a lot of government agencies who does the same role we are doing. Like, for example, we have Women and Enterprise Fund. They are doing the same. We have, if you don't get from this other side, you go to the Women Enterprise Fund. We have WESO Fund at constituency levels. We have National Affirmative Action Fund. We have KIE, Kenya Industrial Estate. That one now is open for everybody. You see, now for us as Youth Fund, we are strictly on 35 years and below. For women, strictly for women. Now for these others, like WESO, it's for everybody. For example, Affirmative Action Fund is for everybody. GAF. KIE also is for everybody. So you see, the government has cut across in trying to support those who are in business. We have also in county governments. I'm sure in county government also, there's a department for trade. They also have the money to support those who are in business. So that's how I'm telling you, the government has really tried. And they are very committed to support those who are in business. Yeah.
And is there anyone specific that you closely work with other than the government, the national government, that is?
What do?
Do you have any agencies that you work closely with other than the national government?
No, at the moment, we just work directly with the government.
And as the board, how are you empowering some of the policies maybe you have formulated to help this fund?
We have tried to, that is why I was telling you, initially, loan used to take a lot of months. But one achievement that we have made as a board of Youth Fund is to reduce that duration to 2 weeks, maximum 2 weeks. 2, we have also tried to, by reducing this, usually vetting was being done at headquarters. But at the moment, the officers in ground do the vetting and also submit the documentation for verification and disbursement. That is how we reduce all this bureaucracy, all this long loan disbursement time. Secondly, we again reduce the number of beneficiaries. Usually, initially, it was supposed to be 10 and above. But we said, for a group to be well managed, it requires a small number of the members. That is why we gave a minimum of 5 and above. And for youth fund, my friend, you don't need to know anybody. You don't need to know anybody. Provided you meet the requirements, you are a Kenyan, you qualify to get this money. Yes.
And how do you evaluate your impact? You've been there for 18 years, you've disbursed over 15 billion shillings. How do you assess the impact that you've been able to make over the years? And some of the adjustments, are there any adjustments that you feel maybe you're also working on?
Yeah, at the moment, we try to make sure that we set systems in place. Like, for example, we have introduced a digital system whereby we don't need youth, the officers in ground can have a system where immediately after filling all the documents, verified, approved the loan, they send straight through that system. It's no longer analog. We are digital. We have set our systems and we operate digitally. Yes.
What should the Youth Enterprise Fund, anyone who is seeking assistance from the Youth Enterprise Fund, expect? You've been in operation for 18 years. Yeah.
Yes. Of course, they need to expect, they should always expect that we are committed to serve them. Our focus is only to support them, to serve them, and to make sure the loan don't take long, so that to solve an issue where, like, for example, for the issue of LBO financing, you may get an LBO today. You are supposed to supply a certain goods by 2 weeks. So what we need to do is we fasten that process, so that we are also not caught up by the time in the other side.
And I'm looking at the East Africa region because we are more or less like a family, and I'm trying to compare how, because each and every country in the region has a way of assisting their youth. How are we doing in the region in comparison to other countries, and what are some of the key things that we can borrow from them, if at all we can?
I think at the moment as a country, through the better bottom-up economic transfers agenda, to me as a country, I think we are moving on well compared to other countries, because our major concern is on how to reach out to the youth in the reserve or in those people in remote areas to get access to this government support, and perhaps make them grow just like in other Kenyans. Yes.
You've mentioned rural areas, and to get these funds into the rural areas of Kwale, Kilifi, Northeastern, how has been the trend there in terms of the uptake of the loan?
It is doing well. It's also doing well, because we have officers who are also stationed at those places. So at the moment, the loan uptake by county in our country is doing well. Yes.
What about the gender parity? You find that in some aspect there are more men seeking assistance like this. How do you balance that?
Yeah, because we are dealing with youth.
They are all youths. Yeah.
They are all youth, of course, they are all youth. So at the moment, we encourage all the youth of across the gender to get access to these loans. But at the moment, we are balanced. We are balanced, both the women and the men. All of them, if you look at the trend of borrowing, we are actually balanced. Yes.
You mentioned government support, especially on the funding itself, but I'm looking at also other partners that also maybe we can rope in, including organizations here in the country, to assist in terms of extension services, in terms of also funds? Because in some aspect I see you have a limit on how much you can be able to give to the youth. If we make this youth fund quite robust, it will attract a lot of youths. And one of the ways to make sure that they know exactly what is happening, it's more or less like a TV interview like this, or even radio, even in the extension officers that you mentioned, to make sure that they know exactly what they are getting into.
At the moment, we have introduced a department called resource mobilization. And in this resource mobilization department, the key mandate is only to source for partners outside, those who can come and support our mandate as youth fund. And as we speak, we have written a lot of proposals to them, and I'm sure as time goes, we'll be getting a support from them. Yes.
I'm looking at your loan products, and I see there are 8 loan products, from group to business to asset to agri to Vitalanta to Vibe. Yes, 9 actually. Do you have plans to introduce other products to suit the needs of the youth?
No, at the moment, we are figuring on those 9. Because I think we have touched all the areas. We have touched all the areas. At the moment, we don't have any plans to introduce any other loan, but only to operate within, unless if there is need to be.
And I've also seen you have a migration loan. Maybe you can touch on that so that our viewers can understand.
For migration loan, as I've said, actually we have loans for those who are migrating to other countries, actually to work, either to work. We give them loans to cater for their ticket, for the general expenditure, so that once they are there, they have been paid, they now repay back our loans. Yes.
From the 9 products, which has the highest uptake?
Yeah, it is 2. At the moment is group loans, individual loans. But individual loans is doing the best compared to the other one.
And which has a high rate of return in terms of the youths themselves?
It is individual.
And the individual loans.
Yes, individual loans.
Maybe you can touch a little bit on that.
Yes. You know, in individual loan, this is because it cuts across in agriculture, LBO financing, and of course, those who already are in business, they just need money for expansion. So such people have established businesses, so they don't have big challenges when it comes to repayment. That's why we have a very impressive repayments from them. And we encourage, that is why we introduce and we really encourage these individual loans, because it will directly benefit an individual. In the same, even in groups, you find there is a challenge in groups, because a group can borrow loans. At some point, issues may arise in that group. Issues, you understand, groups politics. They may turn up into a circumstance whereby they make faults, they change officials. There is a lot of issues in that group. So you find it will also affect the repayments. Sometimes, again, in a group, you may find someone can get a job somewhere else, other can go to another place. So coordinating on how to pay becomes a problem. Yes.
Very well, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping up this conversation. We are looking at youth empowerment, and more specifically via the Youth Enterprise Fund route. We have been actually touching on more on even the loan products and some of the challenges that they have been facing. Extension services that they are providing to ensure that all the youths in the 47 counties, remember they are in the 47 counties, are all benefiting from this fund that has been in operation for 18 years. When we come back, you'll be telling us what they can really pick up from the 18 years that have been in operation, at what are the future plans. On the second hour, as I mentioned, we'll be looking at the registration and regulation of PBOs and NGOs in the country. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I could have prepared that. Like now, I should have a plan B. Look at me now. Rules are just like the rest of you.
Useless. You nearly gave me myocardial infarction. Calm down.
And what is myocardial? What is that?
Heart attack. What the hell are you up to, woman?
Gosh, I look that scary. Mom, can I go home? I am not feeling well and my temperature is odd.
It serves you right for your Angol Uchoyo, who is laughing now. Maybe Fala was right, eh? Working as a team saves the day. This is not a negotiation thing or forum, okay? Bring those papers now!
There's faith in my world. It comes back to your teachings and all your words.
Swala ni jambo ambalo limesisitiziwa kwa sababu Mtume Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam aliwahi kusema kuwa amefaidika yule ambaye atatekeleza swala yake hali ya kuwa ana khushu'.
Aswa usarikata alladhi yasriku fi salati, yule muizi ambaye kwamba ni mubaya kushinda wote ni yule ambaye kwamba anaiba katika swala yake. Mtume alipoyasema yale, maswahaba wakashangaa, wakamuuliza wa kaifa yasriku fi salati, vipi mtu anaweza kuiba katika swala yake? Akasema alladhi la yutimu ruku'aha wala sujuda.
Akolo beshimali wala kwa mkono wa kushoto.
Yes, I swear by Allah, I swear.
Nakuuliza wewe, wakati ulikucha hapo ulipata ni nani amekongwa?
Wewe ukisema nilipeni niende.
Na sasa nikikongwa, pilipili ambaye inayokuchoma inakuhusu nani? Hiyo parapara wewe uko unaiona vizuri, na ndio sababu uko na macho ine, na ndio ukatoka kwa kando kunikonga, na nilikuwa kwa pedestrian.
Makosa ulifanya ni kujigongeza kwa futi mblinji. Ati kwa sababu umeona jamani masini alafu iko spindi, ukajigongeza na unajuanga tu jamani masini vile siko. Wewe ni mjinga wa wapi? Si ungeenda mahali kuko express.
Sasa mimi na wewe nani mjinga?
Ni wewe.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who's the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwa.
Sisi wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome back to KBC News Check, and we're on the tail end of this conversation that I'm having with Almeida Ayabe, who is the board member of the Youth Enterprise Fund, and we are looking at that fund and how it can be able to help youths, and especially those who do not know this loan exists. They have some quite interesting loan products, including for the content creators. So as we wrap up, maybe you can give a word of advice to maybe the youth who do not know that they can really benefit from this. You have very low interest rates. Some don't even attract loans. Maybe you can speak to them.
Yeah, my advice to the youth of this Republic of Kenya is that the government cares for you, and they have channeled a lot of funds to all those agencies I've mentioned. That is Youth Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, Ways of Fund. We have National Affirmative Action Fund, KIE. I want to encourage them that you don't need to strain or ask yourself how to get money to run your business, to start your business. The government cares for you. What you need to do is visit all those agencies I've said, inquire from them, and definitely you will be assisted, and perhaps get some money to run your business. Yes.
Final words as we wrap up.
Yes. I also want to ask all our leaders that we have that it is a responsibility of all of us to address the challenges that are facing our youth. Actually, starting from the lower leadership, that is like MCA, up, down. Because I know during the campaigns, everybody had in their manifesto an agenda on youth empowerment and employment. So when all of us comes in that unison to address all these challenges of the youth, we'll have reduced a quite number of this problem. Yes.
Where are your offices, and especially in the counties, where are they domiciled? For the
at county offices, we are found at in every government office, in every national government, central office in county, we are occupying their offices. We actually have rooms there. At headquarters here in Nairobi, we are found at Harper Hill, that is at Renaissance Plaza, at the 4th floor. Yes.
All right, thank you so much indeed for joining us, Almeida Ayabe, who is one of the board members of the Youth Enterprise Fund. We're looking at the youth empowerment opportunities and also entrepreneurship development that are there, but they need some backs, and these people here can help out youth. Remember, 18 to 34?
Yes.
18 to 34, and therefore you can join a group which can also help you propel to get a loan that will be able to assist you in your ventures. Talk about vibe loans, talk about for the digital economy, talk about green energy solutions. They all have it. Thank you indeed so much for joining us, and all the best in your endeavors as you help out our youths in the country.
Thank you very much.
Very well, that's where we put a cap on that discussion, but when we come back, we will be looking at the registration and regulations of PBOs, and I'll be joined by the Public Benefits Organization Regulatory Authority Acting Director General Lyndon Nicholas. And if that hasn't rung your bell, the PBO is formerly the NGO Coordination Board. A number of questions we have here. You do remember there were some even organizations that were flagged for failure of registration and following some of the rules that are put in place. We'll be answering all those questions when we come back.
I could have prepared that. Right now, I should have a plan B. Look at me now. Rules are just like the rest of you.
Useless. You nearly gave me my cordial infarct, so calm down, calm down.
And what is my cordial? What is that?
Heart attack. What the hell are you up to, woman?
Gosh, I look that scary. Naweza sinduma kidogo. Mwalimu, can I go home? I am not feeling well and my temperature is odd.
A substitute for your Angol Uchoyo, who is laughing now. Maybe Fala was right, eh? Working as a team saves the day. This is not a negotiation thing or forum, okay? Bring those papers now!
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Welcome back to KBC News Check, and many thanks for keeping me company. On the second hour, as I had mentioned earlier, is that we are looking at the registration of and the regulation of PBOs or NGOs in the country, and I'm honored to be hosting Lidon Nicholas, who is the Acting Director General for the PBO Regulatory Authority. And as mentioned earlier before, if you don't know exactly what a PBO Regulatory Authority is formerly the NGO Coordination Board. Karibu sana Bwana AG.
Thank you.
First things first, a number of Kenyans might not know exactly what is your mandate as a Public Benefits Organizations Regulatory Authority.
Thank you very much for hosting us. It's a good opportunity to communicate to the stakeholders, the people of Kenya, and dispel a lot of misinformation that is out there. I'll give you an overview. The NGOs Coordination Board came into existence in 1992, and it has regulated, coordinated, and registered NGOs for the last 34 years. About 2006, Parliament decided to put in place session of paper number 1 with the intention of having a one-stop shop for all charitable organizations in the country. So that session of paper number 1 is what led to Public Benefit Organizations Act, which, as we all know, was operationalized sometime this year, May 14. So under the PBOs Act, we have a complete departure from what the NGOs Act provided. Other than registration and regulation, we have other features that have been introduced. For example, international organizations. That we experienced a lot of challenges when we were registering international organizations that were already registered elsewhere other than Kenya. And they wanted to come and just set up branches rather than a complete incorporated organization. And the mechanics were different and were not provided for under the NGOs Act. So the PBO Act has given a proviso for that. For instance, under Section 11, an international organization that is registered elsewhere can come into the country and set up a branch under exempt registration. So this mechanism provides that such an organization that comes in to register just a branch cannot fundraise locally. It has to fundraise outside the country. such an organization will fund local organizations that are already on the ground and dealing with day-to-day activities of assisting Kenyans. And such organizations, again, cannot, because they are given the option of not setting up a board, a board system. Their setup is different from organizations incorporated under Section 10. They have someone called an authorized agent. That authorized agent must be a Kenyan, must be resident. So that authorized agent becomes the face or the representative of the international organization, so that they don't have to have another board set up in Kenya. So if such an organization, for whatever reasons, decides that they want to interact directly with the people of Kenya or fundraise from within Kenya, then they must then change their registration status to Section 10, the provisions of Section 10, which is full incorporation. Again, we have Section 7 that provides for public benefit status. This is something new that has not been experienced in this country before. And because the intention of Parliament was to have a one-stop shop, Section 7 provides that one-stop shop, because it does not matter where one is registered. You could be registered as a company, limited by guarantee, or a CBO, or a society. But as long as you deal in public benefit or charity, then you come under the purview or the ambit of Section 7, because now the law requires you to enter into an agreement with the PBO regulator on how you are going to run your charitable objects moving forward. So it becomes a bit cumbersome for an organization that is, for example, registered under companies to also enter into this arrangement under Section 7. Then they end up having two regulators, the companies and the PBO regulatory authority. So to avoid that, it would be advisable for such organizations that deal in public benefit to come and get a registration under the PBS Act.
And what is the situation that we have right now in terms of registration and compliance? Because I think it's a month or so ago we had about 7,000 PBOs failing to meet the requirements.
What is happening is, as a regulatory authority, we have PBOs registered with us required to file returns. It is a tool that allows us to monitor what they are doing, where they are doing it, how they are doing it, how much funds come into the country, so on and so forth. So in our last annual sector report, I think I'll give you a copy, we noticed that of the 10,000 active PBOs, about 2,800, about 3,000 PBOs complied. And if you look at that figure, it is interesting because of the 3,000 PBOs that filed returns, the figures that we are talking about is about 196 billion Kenya shillings that came in. From 3,000, yes.
Yeah, the time frame of that?
That's 1 year. That is
1 year.
2022-2023 financial year.
It's a lot of money.
It would be more if we had all the 13,000 registered PBOs complying. If we had, because what we have in the register is 13,000, we've deregistered about 2,000. Out of those 2,000, 136 have sought for reinstatement. The reinstatement is a continuing process. Some of them have dissolved. And the 7,000 that have not complied would then shoot the figure to much more than what we have now. And as an organization, we intend to work with them so that they can comply. We want to reach out to them talk to them, work with them so that they can comply. Because, again, if you look at the transition, we cannot transit a PBO or an NGO that has not complied into a PBO, because first they need to comply with the returns that they are supposed to file before we transit them into the new act. Even though the clause 5 of the transitional clauses provides automatic transition, there's a process of updating records, because the law says re-registration. It is a process that requires that they update their records so that it reflects the new status quo. So before we do that, we are going to ensure that everyone complies.
But 7,000 is quite a big number. What exactly are they not complying? Because if you look at it, it's more than half of all the PBOs in the country.
Compliance is not an easy job. The nature of Kenyans is to not want to comply. But as an institution, we've had a very small staff that cannot cover the entire country. Kenya is a vast country. So recently, we've opened regional offices. We have about 5 of them: Kisumu, Garissa, Mombasa, Eldoret, Nakuru. We intend to open more offices in Isiolo. Recently, we're in Isiolo to do a feasibility study. So these regional offices have a responsibility to make sure that they move into mashinani and make sure that all PBOs in the areas of jurisdiction comply. So this is a process, an exercise that we are committed to, we are going to undertake, and we are going to achieve 100% compliance.
Let's look at the Act, because in Kenya we have very good laws, but the big challenge when it comes to the implementation.
True.
Yeah.
The PBOs Act, since it was operationalized in May, is going to be implemented within the time frame that the minister gazetted, that is 1 year. So we have until May 15th as the deadline for full implementation. Since that May 14th, we have been doing things in the background. We've not come out to give direction, which we now want to give and inform Kenyans about what we are planning, what we are doing, what we've been doing. For instance, we've had consultations with government ministries and departments. We have had consultations with the sector, key sector players. We have also had consultation with development partners such as UNDP, USAID, DANIDA. And we are all looking at a roadmap that is going to enable us implement this act the way it was conceived. So we are looking at a program that will begin next month and will run for 2 months. That will enable us to go around the country, meet with key stakeholders and conduct public participation. As things stand now, we had 2 regulations that had been drafted some time back. We are now in the process of harmonizing those 2 regulations and look at what else is in the Act that was not captured in those regulations. Once we do that, we are going to take that regulation and subject it to public participation. We are thinking we begin with Mombasa, then progress around the country, then finish with Nairobi. As we come to Nairobi, we will be seeking to hold a PBO summit that will have all stakeholders in the sector, that is development partners, government ministries, PBOs, ourselves and the private sector, that will come and then validate the document that will have come from the public participation exercise.
And how is the the operationalization of this act, the PBO Act, how has it impacted the regulation of charitable organizations?
A lot of things have been introduced with the coming of the new act. For example, if you looked at the NGOs Act, it did not provide for an ADR mechanism. This act has provided for a tribunal that should then handle all the issues that happen in the sector between PBOs, between PBO and the regulator, and so on and so forth. It also gives the authority the mandate to set up an ADR system, internal ADR system, that can handle these issues before they get to the tribunal. The Act has also provided for the Federation of PBOs. Under the NGOs Act, we had the council, the NGOs Council. But now we have a Federation of PBOs. Under that federation, we've gone even down and provided for forums. Then we have also provided for, under Section 27, we've embedded a code of conduct that is general to all PBOs. So we are saying that because of the freedoms provided for in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, no one is going to force anyone to associate with someone they don't want. So we are saying because of that, you can either run as a loner and be guided by Section 27 on the Code of Conduct, or you can join a forum, which is then styled in either geographical setup or thematic setup. Or you can then become a member of the federation, which is the self-regulatory mechanism for PBOs, which should be an umbrella body for all PBOs. So a forum can join the federation, or an individual PBO can join the federation, or an individual PBO can run their own show. But then they get subjected to Section 27. So these are new things that have come with the Act. Public benefit status is also a new thing that has come with the Act, and it's going to be interesting because we are going to be working with KRA in terms of tax exemption for PBOs. All public benefit organizations or charitable organizations, they want to benefit from tax exemptions, they want work permits and so on and so forth. So we are working with immigration and KRA on mechanisms on how to accommodate this kind of request. So a PBO that is registered under, say, CBOs or companies, if they need to get tax exemption, then the authority, the PBO authority, must talk to KRA, give the KRA an okay that this organization is good, their objectives are in order, their constitution, their governance, and so on and so forth is in order before they can be considered for tax exemption. So these are new things that are going to be very interesting to implement.
Yeah, the next one here will be a hive of activities.
Yes, very definitely. Once we have transitioned everyone and we have a deadline, we are thinking that by the end of this year, December, we should have the regulations validated. Latest January, around 25th. Once the regulations are validated, then we take them to Parliament for their input. Once that is done, then it comes to the Cabinet Secretary for gazettement. So we are looking at a program that will run up to the end of January, where we have gazetted regulations. That will give us about 4 months within which to transition the PBOs, because now it will be an easy task. What is hard is formulating all the forms, the statutory forms that we require for purposes of a smooth transition. And you know, we have to synthesize all the provisions of all the sections in the Act into, give them effect in the regulations. So once that is done, that is the hard part. Once that is done, the transition will be very, very smooth. And then we are looking at a system where we are going to put our operations online. so that someone in Mandera does not have to come to Nairobi to file returns, for example, or make an application for bank authorization and so on. So we are working on this simultaneously. UNDP is helping us with putting our systems online. So once we are done with this, then we are going to have to put everything online and move forward.
And as an authority, how will you ensure that these regulations also do reflect also the needs of the stakeholders that we are talking about, the PBOs now?
The reason why we are subjecting these regulations to public participation is so that we get the views of the stakeholders on what they need in terms of regulations. So those views that we are going to collect from the stakeholders are going to be synthesized into legal language, and that is what will be taken to Parliament, and that is what will be gazetted and then used to regulate. So there's no worry about that.
And for you mentioned earlier on that there are over 3,000 PBOs who have applied for a review of the requirements that are there. What happens to those who do not meet these requirements? Will they be deregistered?
Now, the 3,000 NGOs or PBOs that I mentioned are the ones that have complied with the law or the regulations, as it were, in terms of filing their returns, so that it gives us an opportunity to know what they're doing, how much has come in, and so on and so forth. The 7,000 that have not complied, we are going to reach out to them, and we are going to make sure that full compliance is achieved before we transition. In the event that it is not possible to comply, the law is the law. And we've been talking to our development partners, and they're saying they also need some order, some structure from their end, so that there's something called donor regulation, so that they fund organizations that are in good standing, that are compliant, because we have found ourselves in scenarios where a donor has funded an organization. The organization has been deregistered because the donor did not do due diligence. The donor did not talk to the regulator before they funded. Then it becomes difficult for those funds to be accounted for, because a deregistered organization will not implement anything. Then the donor runs a loss. So we are trying to streamline the sector to make sure that donors are getting what is due for them, and the government is also getting what is due to it. This is going to help everybody, including the PBOs, because when you are compliant, you become attractive to a donor, and then a donor can then figure out how to work with you.
And how does your report reveal about compliance of PBOs? And another thing, in terms of regulation, to ensure that the PBOs that come here in Kenya do not engage into matters, politics, governance, or even leadership, do not meddle in any way in a country. Just as you said, a lot are funded from outside.
Yes, it is true that a lot of them are funded from outside. And one other feature that is in this act that is going to ensure that this sustainability and this funding from local funding is Section 65. Section 65 of the Act provides that a PBO can engage in income-generating activities. When a PBO engages in income-generating activity, it means that it can register and own a company. Then that company will engage in business and profits. Those profits then get plowed back to support the charitable objects of the PBO. So in terms of looking at sustainability and in terms of looking at, don't forget that donor funds are also dwindling. Donors are changing their gaze, their objective to other things. So PBOs need to figure out a way to survive. So as the donors bring in money, the PBOs have objectives. Before you get registered, we must look at your objective, your vision, your mission, and certify that it is in the best interest of the Kenyan people. Even as money comes from wherever out there, it is for purposes of supporting the objectives which we, as the authority, have certified to be good for the people of Kenya. So if, for whatever reason, you divert those funds for other things, we will be able to know from the returns that you file. We will be able to see, because Section 63 allows us to carry out investigation and walk in, carry out forensic audit, investigative audit, look at your governance and everything, then determine that you are either doing other things other than the objectives you are registered for, or you are in good standing. Then we take necessary legal action. So, granted, we have organizations that are governance-oriented. Those organizations are always trying to keep government in check, looking at what government is doing in terms of good governance. That is what they're registered to do. Those are their objectives. So whatever funds they get is supposed to further those objectives. One thing I need to mention is that we have had a few organizations divert donor funding for other reasons. We have also had a few organizations obtaining, through false pretenses, money from the people of Kenya. And these are cases that we've investigated. Some of them are at the prosecution stage. Some of them are in court. And we want to caution the people of Kenya that before you engage with an NGO or a PBO, please check with the regulator. It is very easy to prevent than to chase money that is lost, because once it's lost, chances are the person will be prosecuted, jailed, but you still don't get the money. Or, you know, the complexities of the legal system. The easiest thing would be for a Kenyan or a donor that wants to engage with a PBO to write to the regulator and say, I need to do ABCD with this guy. Can you check if this guy is good, is legit?
More or less like a land search.
Yes. Because then, if you don't do that, you get defrauded. Then you start coming back to the regulator and say, look, I engaged with so and so, they defrauded me. Where do we go? Where do we go to from there? Prosecution, investigation. Did you get your money back? Chances are no. So as we investigate, as we try to help, we want to also caution that people should check with the regulator before they engage.
Have you deregistered some, because not all are complying to the laws of Kenya and even your laws as a regulator? And what happens to those who fail to follow the regulations? Maybe
we have deregistered 2,500 organizations for various reasons. One, either they failed to follow or comply with the regulations and the Act, or they breached the provisions of their own constitution, because at the end of the day, those constitutions, once approved, they become part and parcel of the legal framework that governs that particular organization. Then there are organizations that disappear. They come, register, they are on record, but you can't see where they are. They don't file returns, they don't talk, they don't do nothing. They've just disappeared. So in the previous setup, the law provided for something called proof of existence, that you need to prove that you exist. How do you prove that you exist? Comply with the law. So when you don't exist, then you get removed from the register. Others have dissolved by their own selves, because whatever projects they were carrying out have come to an end. And one other thing that I need to mention is that under the new Act, we have not deregistered any organization yet. And we want to encourage organizations. We don't want to use the stick. We want to use the carrot. We want to encourage organizations to come talk to us, be with us, consult us where they have difficulties, so that we can help them comply. We don't want to go to the extreme, unless now we are really pushed to the extreme. So as things are happening right now, we are going to give directions on transition. But before that, they need to come and comply.
Fast.
Yes.
And what are some of the fraudulent cases that you have witnessed as a regulator? Because from where we sit as Kenyans, we've heard of NGOs that are supporting political parties. We've had NGOs that are meddling in the politics of the country. So what are some of these cases and how do you deal with them? At least you've said for now, with the new regulations, you haven't had any cases. But I'm quite sure previously you've had
not the new regulations.
Yes.
The new act.
The new act.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we're in the process of formulating the regulations. The Interpretations Act allows us to use the old regulations to implement the new act insofar as its provisions are consistent with those of the new act. Now, cases in the sector are very real, and they are not as political as people want to think. They are real cases, they are criminal cases. For example, you can have an organization registered, operating in areas that are authorized, engaging in obtaining. An organization approaches you, for example, tells you, I need 10 lorries of cement, I need 100 bags of rice, then they give you LPO. LPO is a promise to pay, that they will pay within 30 days. Now, what you don't know as the supplier is that as you bring these goods and put them here, this organization is taking them elsewhere and selling them. When you come after 30 days with your LPO because now you want to get paid, the organization does not exist. It's no longer in the premises where you delivered the goods. It has moved. It has gone elsewhere. Then you are left with no recourse than to come to the authority to say, look, I supplied 8 million worth of goods to this organization. They have disappeared. I can't find them. Can we look at the register and see whether they exist? Sometimes we look at the register and we find that it does not exist. And that is something that we need to do. So we are proposing that we are going to map the entire country and even put GIS systems that will help us identify where PBOs are. Because there are people that are unscrupulous by nature. They will register organizations or give an appearance of a registered organization. Once you engage with them, then you realize that it was all fake. The certificate was fake, the people were fake, but money is lost.
It is gone.
Yes. So those are the kind of crimes that are in the sector. There's also a few cases of money laundering here and there, but we are working with FRC on that to make sure that we clean up the sector. When it comes to politics, what may appear as PBOs supporting politicians is a fallacy. It's not true, because some of these politicians have their roots in PBOs or in NGOs. For example, you might find that someone was a CEO or a chairman of an NGO. Then they get interest to run for a political office. So when they run for that political office, people will associate them with the PBO where they were a CEO or a chairman. And then people will start imagining that they're getting support from that. It is not true. These are Kenyans that are exercising their political rights within their rights. So a lot of things within the sector are, there's a lot of misinformation, not just within the sector, but in Kenya generally. And I've realized that the people of Kenya, we run with the information that we get without verifying. You are told so-and-so has done ABCD, you are forwarding it, the person you forward it to forwards it, it's going around, no one has taken 1 minute to sit down and ask the relevant questions. Where were you when this person was doing this? Did you actually see this person do this? Or are you just saying it because you've been told or because you imagined it? So there's a lot of fallacies out there that we as a regulator need to correct, and we are committed to doing that.
So how are you dealing with some of these cases that you've mentioned of fraud?
The cases of fraud that are happening in the sector, because we are not a prosecuting agency, we work very closely with the DCI. If we find criminal cases, because we have our own internal investigative mechanism or system, we carry out our internal investigations. Once we realize that this case borders on criminality and requires further intervention, then we involve the DCI and the ODPP. We give them a copy of our file. They look through. If they agree with us, then they take the relevant legal action. Yeah.
Well, what are some of the challenges if I want to register a CBO or an NGO in the country? What are some of the challenges or hurdles that I have to cross, maybe which may make me not really want to register an organization here in the country?
The biggest hurdle that we have in regulatory regime is the many organizations or agencies that engage in registration. For instance, we have societies under the Societies Act. We have PBOs under the PBOs Act. We have the Companies under Companies Act. We have CBOs under Social Welfare. We have trust, even though trust has been now moved to BRS, Business Registration. So Kenyans largely do not know how to differentiate all these registration regimes. And that is why we are trying as a government to delink and delineate these regimes to do exactly what they're supposed to do. And we are saying everyone dealing in charity, Pandey. Everyone dealing in business, Pandey. Everyone dealing with clubs, chamas, self-benefit, Pandey. So once we do that as a government and we are successful, then it becomes easy for the people of Kenya to decide where they want, what they want, and where they want to register. Registration is a very easy process. The law provides for the steps. For example, under the PBOs Act, Section 8 has given the steps: provide a constitution, provide minutes, provide ID documentation, provide good conduct, provide budget estimate of what you want to do, give us a location of where you want to do it. Those are very easy things to do. So once you put that together, then the next thing is now the internal processes of verification. This, what has been provided, for example, the Constitution, the objective says, I want to provide water for the people of, say, Kathiani. Is that objective charitable? Is it going to benefit the public? Once we certify ourselves that that is correct, then we proceed with, of course, the registration process. And also, we have to vet who is coming into the sector. Maybe someone has some past that is checkered. We have to vet and see that this person, because they are going to be handling public money. By the way, money that comes to PBOs is public money. They need to handle that responsibly. They need to be people that can be trusted. So other than internal processes, there's also vetting.
And how does the government and institution like yours support the growth of CBOs and NGOs in the country? Are there incentives that are given to these organizations?
Yes. Number one incentive is to provide a friendly environment within which they can operate. By putting up laws, you are signaling to anyone who wants to deal with such an organization that this organization is legit. They are regulated under this law, and therefore whatever they are doing is legal. That is number one. Number two, we are looking at tax exemptions. In the past, there was a blanket tax exemption that was given to PBOs, and this was abused by a lot of people. So KRA came up with regulations on how someone gets tax exemption. And as I told you earlier, we are working with KRA on how to set up mechanisms that will allow PBOs benefit from tax incentives. We have PBOs that have foreigners that want to come in and impart skills that are lacking in Kenya. We allow them to come in by giving them work permits. They come, impart those skills within an agreed period of time. Then they go back home, they leave Kenyans with skills that can help them earn a living. Yes.
And I've seen that you have a 3-year roadmap for integrating in PBOs in the new system. Kindly outline that.
The 3-year roadmap plan was done as part of preparation for transition. Phase 1 involves coming up with instruments that will allow us transit, like the regulations, right? Phase 2 involves coming up with statutory documents that will allow us make work easy for PBOs. For example, I want to register, a constitution is required. I have no idea how to go about that. I'm not a lawyer, but I need to. I don't have money to pay a lawyer to help me with this process. What do? We, as the authority, provide a draft constitution that can then guide you on how to go about it. We have international financing reporting system that we are also coming up with as part of this phase 2, that is going to guide auditors that are auditing these PBOs in terms of how the parameters within which they should carry out their audits. Then phase 3, once people are transited, is now regulation, ensuring that there is total compliance, ensuring that the people of Kenya are getting what is due to them.
What are the future trends in the NGO regulations? At least we have an act now, and you're working on the regulation framework.
Future trends, we are looking at a scenario where we are going to have an influx of organizations, because we, under this act, now have a wider mandate. We have many institutions that deal in charity without proper registration. For example, we have churches that carry out charity. Who checks how that charity is carried out? Where is this registered? How is it organized? We have institutions such as banks that carry out charity. We have CSR mechanisms. We have, for example, like Safaricom Foundation, Equity Foundation, or everybody in the country that is now dealing in charity or public benefit, if you like, is going to have to come under this. And this is going to be a huge number that has not been seen before. And it's going to require that as an institution, we decentralize our services to the the best we can so that we reach every part of Kenya. And we are working with other agencies to help us do this. We have the national government system, administrative system, that we are also tapping into to make sure that we reach mashinani. So that is something that is going to be interesting. We have sustainability mechanism being introduced by the Act. It's going to be interesting to regulate a PBO that is conducting business courtesy of Section 65. Because the business will be regulated under companies, but the PBO will be regulated under PBO's Act. So this is going to be interesting. And then there's KRA in the middle somewhere. KRA is going to ensure that these profits, because they're supporting these charitable objects, this organization then is exempted from paying taxes. And these are things that we have to work out. Yes.
What is the advice you can give to someone or an entity that wants to do business with a PBO and NGO in the country? Because you've mentioned, yes, some are not quite compliant and some even been involved in fraud earlier.
It's not just entities or businesses. It's anyone that wants to engage with a PBO. Be it a government department, be it a development partner, be it an embassy, international organization, normal Kenyan. Before you engage with a PBO, check with the regulator to see that the PBO you want to engage with is legit, is in good standing. And for example, a few years ago, we had a terrorism conference in Nairobi. And we had PBOs that had applied to be part of that exercise. And the government wrote to us and said, look, we have this number of PBOs. They want to participate in this conference. Can you tell us whether they are okay to participate? Then we go into the files and look, are you compliant? Have you filed returns? Is there any criminal activity associated with you? And you find some of them are not even registered with us. Some of them have been deregistered, and so on and so forth. So due diligence is key. Yeah.
Summarize the importance of the PBO Act in transparency, accountability, as a general, because this, from what I've heard, is that these are gonna herald a new era in terms of how PBO operate here in the country.
In terms of, I mentioned self-regulation earlier. We expect that self-regulation is going to be administered by the Federation. And under self-regulation, we want PBOs to check themselves. And the code of conduct that is embedded in Section 27 should now then be extrapolated and given meaning. Things like transparency, things like respect to the rule of law, things like probity will be within the purview of the Federation to administer among the PBOs. As the authority, we are going to ensure that there is compliance by making sure that we know. Once we do that GIS mapping of all organizations, and once we put our systems online, it will be by the touch of a button, we will know. NGO X operating in Nyambene, for example, is doing ABCD. We send officers that are in our regional office in that area. Can you go and check and see whether the reports we are getting is actually what is happening on the ground? So the Act is giving us a lot of powers. Section 62, 63. If you looked at the PBO, the NGOs Act, there was no protection for assets provided for. So This act provides that if an organization is dissolving or has been deregistered, then those assets are the first thing that we as an authority need to protect, because those assets have been donated or acquired through donations that are meant to benefit a certain section of Kenyans. So if someone has been deregistered, those assets should continue benefiting the people of Kenya. So we are allowed by law to have those assets given to another organization with a similar objective. And we have had many cases in court under the NGOs Act where you find that a donor says, now that you are dissolving, give me back my assets.
Yeah.
The donor gave you probably money. You used the money to buy motor vehicles, computers, land, buildings, so on and so forth. Now it has come a time where you need to dissolve. There's a reason why you were given that money, to help the people of Kenya. But now that you want to dissolve, you want to give it to another NGO to continue benefiting. But then the donor says, no, give me back. And if you looked at the income regulations done by KRA for the year 2007, there was a clause that was very express that donations once given cannot be returned. And that is something that we are finding very interesting times in court, because some of these cases have gone to court and we are looking to create jurisprudence.
Somebody would want to have whatever he gave out back.
Yes.
Bwana AG, in 30 seconds for your closing remarks.
For my closing remarks, I want to urge PBOs that have not complied to make haste and come and comply. I want to urge development partners that have pledged to work with us to come on board. And I want to note that beginning next month, we are hitting the ground and we are running. We have deadlines, we have timeframes, and we are committed to meeting those deadlines and timeframes. And we are going to use resources that are available to us, even as other people want to come on board. And we are consulting everyone. We are consulting the sector, government, and other stakeholders.
Lidon Nicholas Otieno, who is the Acting Director General for the Public Benefits Organization Regulatory Authority, formerly the NGO Coordination Board. They're telling us more in regards to registration and regulations of PBOs or NGOs in the country. That's why I put a cap. Join us for more in our social media spaces and also in our subsequent bulletin, and especially now we from 12 to 1 is the Swahili version, that is Tamrini with Kasichana Masha. My name is Bentro Njue. Brian Muraru has been our sign language interpreter for this live program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Now, Gillian, I know that with this house, you had to accommodate 2 living areas as your 2 sisters sharing this house, which makes it quite unique and different. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yes, so there's an internal communal area where they entertain and get together, and then there's their more private units on the sides. Actually, while we were building, they picked up some stones on the site and we created this beautiful artwork that was a custom-made design that shows and signifies the convergence of the 2 sisters coming together. It was commissioned and done by a local South African artist, yes.
Can I feel
Yes, so these actually light up at night, the white quartzite.
No way.
Yes, and it's a reflection of the river actually, and the landscape that was incorporated in the feature. This is a courtyard, and which kitchen doesn't need an outside garden area?
Oh, beautiful. So you have fresh produce within your garden.
Yes, which you then can incorporate in your dishes. You've got herbs on tap. And then you've got this lovely area, pergola area, which once it's overgrown, you know, you can just relax here in the courtyard. Okay. In the space, you know, it's
so
very
will
protected
it grow until
and
it creates shade?
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Gillian, for showing us this masterpiece of a house you've created.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, before we leave this tranquil and really beautiful house, it's time to check in with powerhouse Nozibele Kamgana Mayaba, who tested positive for HIV and reshaped her world for the better. Check it out.
In Johannesburg, South Africa, Nozibele Mayaba runs one of the country's most popular channels on living with HIV/AIDS.
Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel.
So for me to go back and say I had been infected after one encounter with a boy, with a man, I thought that would just kill my mom.
Hey everybody, my name is Nozibele Kamgana Mayaba. Welcome to my home. I cannot wait to have you here and to share a little bit about my life.
Nozi lives with her husband Sikumbuzo, very far away from the conservative environment of the Port Elizabeth township she grew up in. In 2013, she was diagnosed with HIV. This felt like a low blow.
I remember my doctor asking me, like, what are some of my fears? And I was like, I don't want to die. I'm too young. I still have a lot of things that I want to do. I still want to travel the world. I want to get